Fit and Healthy Athlete Podcast. Debbie Potts is here to help you burn fat, optimize health, and enhance your performance in life as you age. We'll explore metabolic health, holistic health, and actionable insights with guest experts and deep dives into health topics. Whether you're an athlete or just looking to thrive, let's discover how to become your best self. Let's get started.
Hey, welcome to the Coach Debbie Potts Show. This is a show for you if you are a driven, ambitious, high performer who feels that they are doing all the right things but still feeling stuck. I'm your host, Debbie Potts. I'm a former top endurance athlete turned functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, also known as FDN practitioner, and I'm also a functional nutritional therapy practitioner, as well as a long-time personal trainer and endurance sport coach for cycling, running, triathlons, and I'm also the creator of the Holistic Method coaching program. About 10 years ago, I was pushing my body to the limit, running a fitness studio all by myself. I hit a wall. I had unexplained weight gain, extreme fatigue, disrupted sleep, memory issues, brain fog, all while eating clean and training hard. I suddenly realized it's not just about what you eat or how you train. It's about what is happening under the hood. Now, it is my mission to help people as you, a high performer, to stop spinning your wheels and finally uncover the hidden stressors, metabolic dysfunction, and hormone imbalances that are holding you back from being your best self and living your best life in the second half of your life. So on my podcast and the YouTube channel, I will be sharing real conversations, expert interviews, and data-driven strategies to help you rebuild your metabolism, balance your hormones, restore your energy, and create your strongest, most vibrant future self. So if you are ready to stop guessing and start investigating and wanting to thrive from the inside out, you are in the right place. So let's get started on your journey to becoming your metabolically fit, more resilient, and unstoppable self at any age. So head to debbiepotts.net and schedule a call with me to discover more of my 3 coaching packages. And we can get you started on being your best self in the future. All right, let's get to the show today. Enjoy and let me know your questions, comments, and suggestions. Hit subscribe and share this to other high performers who are struggling to get results when they think they're doing all the right things. But sometimes we just need to investigate what is actually going on and put the missing pieces of their health puzzle together again. All right, talk soon. Enjoy the show. Hey, it's Debbie, and I am bringing on Dr. Holly Wyatt on the show today. It's a topic I've not gone deep into yet on the show, talking about GLP-1 medications, stubborn weight loss, and really how you can avoid weight gain when you get off the medications or alternative ways to improve your metabolism. As I've been talking about many episodes, as you age, we need to do things differently. So instead of taking weight loss drugs, maybe some people may benefit a different way. So Dr. Holly is a physician, endocrinologist, coach, nationally recognized leader in the weight loss and long-term weight management industry with more than 25 years of clinical and research experience. She's helped thousands of people not only lose a lot of weight, but maintain their success and transform their overall health. She is known to millions as a medical doctor on the ABC hit show Extreme Weight Loss. She brings science to life by guiding individuals through dramatic real-world transformations. She has a new book coming out soon, and we are going to talk about losing the weight loss meds. So looking forward to this conversation. All right, I have Dr. Holly on the show to talk about how we can improve our, I guess, health, well-being, not just focusing on scale weight, but I think just Holly, we were just talking about before I hit record, doing what we can do today in middle age to be our best self in the future and to feel good in our body and to have energy to do things of daily activities and really working on taking ownership of our health with simple habits rather than looking for the magic solution, the magic pill for everything to feel better. Right. So thanks for coming on and talking about these great subjects we're going to dive into today of weight loss resistance, weight loss stalls, and understanding what I think a lot of things that change as we age that we can take ownership for and do differently and not blame the aging process. And, oh, I'm going to be this fat person that have no energy and going to have all these problems because I'm getting older, because that's normal. And I am glad to have you come on the show to prove there's some other reasons and
I love
solutions.
what you said. No blame, no shame, but responsibility. That's what I always say, right? No blame, no
Yeah.
shame. We're different. There's physiology involved. There's lots of things, but what can we do in
Mhm.
a way that really sets us up for what we want to achieve in our life?
Yeah. So tell me a little bit how you got to this point. I was reading your bio in the intro. You've been in this space a long time. What makes you stay and focus on this area?
I've been in this space around obesity and metabolic health and behavioral change my whole career. I'm an endocrinologist by training, so I'm an MD, went to medical school, then did my residency and my fellowship, and went straight into body weight regulation, helping people lose weight, and focused on weight loss maintenance. That was kind of my area of expertise. So I've been doing this for over 25 years. And I kind of say the field's kind of caught up with me because when I first started, it wasn't really, doctors didn't really do this. Why? I have always had a passion for this. I've struggled with my weight my whole life. And so even when I was in high school and when I was in medical school and college, I was constantly like, why am I different? Why do I have to watch what I eat so carefully or feel like I do to be able to not gain a bunch of weight or to, and it really fascinated me, like, what's the difference? And so I was lucky enough to go through medical school, become a doctor, and then think, you know what? I can hook the two together.
Have you gotten into genetics in that
Yeah, so
discovery?
yeah, I don't specifically study genetics, but
Mhm.
I do understand the genetics that are involved in body weight regulation and diseases and obesity. And there's definitely a, genetic predisposition and genes that drive things. They're not the only thing that drives body weight regulation, but
Mhm.
they definitely play a role. So I understand that piece. I haven't studied them specifically.
I just relate to what you're saying, and I've done genetic reports, different ones over the years, and I always have all the obesity genes, and realize, okay, that's probably a lot why I have to work harder, even though being endurance athlete for a lot of my life, competing in Ironmans, that be like, okay, why am I not losing weight and all these other people are? Why do I have to do things differently? And how unique we all are. But that was my own journey of exploring, all right, I need to do things differently to get my body composition the way I feel comfortable in so I can perform my best in sports, but in life as well.
Right, right. And you're right. We all have certain genes. I kind of think of them like we have a handful of cards and we all have certain genes. And you probably have multiple genes that make it harder for you to lose weight or make it easier for you to gain weight. And those are kind of the cards you have. Other people have cancer genes or genes that predispose them for type 2 diabetes or
Yeah.
for inflammation. We all have these kind of cards. So I always say, okay, these are the cards I have. How do I play them to the best of my ability? What do I
Mhm.
do with what I have? Not, oh my gosh, look at this. Well, look what I have. That responsibility piece you're talking about.
Yeah, it is. And what I'm getting to is the popularity of GLP-1s and knowing that I think what you have experienced in your field, how to help people be successful in weight loss and keeping it off. And then we have these GLP-1s come on the market, and so many people that are overweight and not overweight have been on them. And really, where do you feel this, I guess, how they work, GLP-1s work in first place, and how do you feel that they've helped or not helped in the weight loss industry?
Yeah, so the new weight loss medications, the GLP-1s, have changed the field. We've had weight loss medications in the past, but these new ones really go in and impact your appetite, bring your appetite down really low where you're satisfied with a very small amount of food. They shut off food noise. So you're not thinking about food all the time. I know for me, I'm constantly kind of thinking about what's going to be my next meal. Where's it going to be? The GLP-1s tend to decrease that or shut that down. So they work by decreasing your food intake. And when you're, eating less calories than you're burning, you're going to burn body fat. You're going to lose weight. So that's how they work. And they've changed the field because they're very powerful. We haven't had medications that had this much efficacy, caused this much weight loss. And so people are like, oh my gosh, I can really now lose an amount of weight that has a meaning to me, changes my life. So people are really, this has changed things because this is new for us. I think the key is that it's about weight loss and weight loss maintenance. So you can do things like the medications to lose the weight, but you got to also think about what you're going to do long term. I do think there's a role for these medications just for the reasons you talked about, the genes. Some people have high blood pressure. They could treat it with diet, but we have medications we give them because we know they have some genetic predisposition. And so we give them medication. Same thing for obesity. You have a genetic predisposition. Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah,
I just swallowed
okay.
wrong. Wow.
Well, I think, yeah, keep going. I think that's a lot to that there's the reasons why people don't understand why they are struggling with weight. And are we just putting another Band-Aid on people's health issues and giving them a label that this is how you're going to be obese, or this is, you're prone to this, or get them a medication as GLP-1 and lose weight, but not, are we teaching people to understand for their own well-being and future self, why am I struggling with weight? What else is really going on? Is it because I'm overeating, or is there other reasons going backwards, deeper to trauma, or, the relationship with food? So mom was curious, like, all right, how did I get to this place? Is everyone has a different story, but it's not necessarily because we're eating 50 bags of Oreo cookies all day long.
Right. And there are many reasons why we gain weight. Genetics are part of them. They're not the only reason. But I think that the GLP-1s are a tool. And I like what you're saying. I wouldn't just use them alone, but I think they can be a tool. And for some people, it really changes the physiological playing field. For the first time, they're like, okay, I kind of understand what it feels like to not think about food all the time. I kind of understand how I can stop with one cookie and not want to eat the whole bag because I've changed the hormones in my brain, and that has changed that eating behavior. But you're right, other things impact eating behavior. Environment impacts how much we eat. How much we move impacts how much we eat in our body weight regulation. Definitely trauma and how we deal with our emotions. A lot of people use food to numb them or to not feel them or to deal with them differently. So you're right, it's very complex why we weigh what we weigh. And, I don't think that they just solve the problem. I do think lifestyle and understanding a more holistic approach is, we're not losing lifestyle. People said, is lifestyle dead? I'm like, no, not at all.
Well, was it 2 years ago at my IDEA, the World Fitness Convention Center that we have. 2 years ago, there was a good seminar at the conference on trying to hit the fitness world that you should be getting involved with doctors prescribing GLP-1s and learning how to personal train people and coach them up when they're going through this weight loss drug, because people that really benefit from taking these that are metabolically unhealthy and obese, the people that are finally like, oh, I'm ready to change and get healthy, people that I feel that benefit from this medication, and then teach them how to exercise and not have, being scared to go to the gym or being out in public because they're overweight and uncomfortable and insecure about themselves. But now let's guide them through this journey the right way and help them improve their metabolism with the strength training, with the movement throughout the day as they start to take off the weight. But those are people I think that are 100 pounds overweight or more, right? Is it are we kind of seeing a difference of, okay, if you're really metabolically unhealthy and truly obese, or are you just trying to lose the 10 pounds?
Well, these are medications, and you do have to have a prescription for them. They're not something you can just go buy over the counter, or someone has to write a prescription that has that ability.
Which is pretty
And so
easy these days, right?
it is, but it shouldn't be. And I always say, yes, their prescription they have, can cause a lot of weight loss. They can also cause side effects. There's also a risk with the medication. That's why it requires a prescription. So they are not indicated for someone that has they're indicated for a body mass index of 30 or greater, or 27 if you have a comorbidity, something like type 2 diabetes. But if your BMI is less than that and you have only 10 pounds to lose, then we don't recommend using these medications because there is a risk. And there's not as much of a benefit from losing 10 pounds. So you're that's what you're kind of getting at, those who have a reason that really need it from a metabolic standpoint or a health standpoint versus those who maybe are looking at it from a little bit different angle. I don't like to judge why people want to lose weight. I don't think it's even as a physician, physicians like to say, oh, it should be about your health. I don't like to do that. I think, people get to make their own decisions about what's important to them in their life. But from a standpoint of a risk benefit and a prescription drug, we do have kind of a cut point of where they can be prescribed and when they should not be prescribed.
Yeah, I think that's where I feel that there's two conversations where two different categories of people taking the GLP-1s that have the weight loss resistance, have metabolic unhealthy markers, and they need help. And then there's people, I know friends that started taking this to lose weight and they're really skinny now, but it's more what the next phase is, we'll get to, is what happens when you stop taking them.
Yeah.
And how to guide people. So do you feel like there's two different categories, or is it all one, anyone that's taking these medications and what to do differently?
Well, no, there's definitely two categories. There are definitely people who are getting their hands on these drugs and maybe, lose too much weight or don't have any weight to lose, or are doing it to, fit into a dress for an occasion. That wouldn't be what I would recommend. That's not who I would prescribe them for. So we see that, but I think we see a lot of people that have waited their whole life to have some help. And they've struggled with weight loss. And finally, these medications are helping them. I totally agree with what you're saying, though. I say, if we're going to take this medication, if you're going to put yourself at risk for this benefit, let's do everything we can while you're taking it to get you healthy, to set yourself up. Let's not just take the medicine and just do nothing. Let's start working on the physical activity. Let's start working on the mind state. What are you going to do when you have an uncomfortable emotion that maybe you used food for in the past? Let's learn some new techniques right now while the medication is on board. Let's use some new techniques. Let's develop some emotional resiliency. Let's do all of that while you're losing the weight. So I think we're on the same page I think it can be a tool, but let's not use it as the only tool. Let's use it as something that we can combine with lots of other things that will be helpful for us in this kind of broader picture of our life.
And that's similar to, I was just doing a coaching call with I keep having this call, I think, with a lot of clients about thyroid medication, how people are struggling to lose weight. They're given thyroid medication and it's not helping because it's not really what's going on. And they're just struggling. And a lot of times it's women, and I'm sure a lot of men too, are struggling with just chronic stress, and how this kind of domino effect from chronic stress impacts everything and connects to unexplained weight gain. And I gained 30 pounds from chronic stress, being in the best shape of my life doing Ironman Hawaii, to gaining 30 pounds later, 3 months later, 6 months later, and not changing anything with my exercise or nutrition. It was, I swear, all stress related. So do you find that there's, people that are struggling that with weight issues, if they were given a medication, not really dealing with the why, as we talked about already, but just how stress and hormone imbalance and so many different things come into play with unexplained weight gain and inability to lose weight?
Yeah, sure. Not everybody that goes on a GLP-1 loses weight. Some people don't realize that. Some people lose a lot of weight. Some people lose a little bit of weight. And some people don't lose any weight at all, which shows you there's different reasons out there. So this isn't like this works in everybody. And I think it's partly for what you're talking about. The it may not impact the person, what's really causing them some of the issue. A lot of times it's multiple things though. And so you may get a little bit, the appetite may be playing a role, but you also want to work on the stress. You also want to work on the physical activity. You also want to work on the mind state. So it's hard to untangle. People want it to be simple, and it just isn't. But I love what you said before. I do think you need to think about weight loss as being a period of time when you're eating less calories than you're burning and you're losing the body fat. And then what do you do long term? The forever part is the weight loss maintenance. And what are you going to do with the med in the weight loss maintenance piece? Because what we know with really some good data that's been published from the pharmaceutical companies is if you stop the medication after you've lost the weight, you will regain it unless, and this is where I think you have a plan. In the trials, they just stopped it and they really didn't say, okay, what do I do to replace the medication? What do I do instead of the medication? What are the new pieces that, if I go back to the same lifestyle I had and doing the same things I did before the medication, I'm going to go back to the weight.
Yeah.
But what can I do? So I do think it's critical to think about, am I going to stay on the medication for the rest of my life? You can do that. We do that with other medications, blood pressure medications, cholesterol medications, thyroid medications. Sometimes we stay on them for very long periods of time, if not forever, because they don't cure it, they treat it.
Mm-hmm.
But what we also know is a lot of people, over 50%, don't want to stay on the medications. And they're at risk when they stop the medication of regaining all the weight. And, they've made a lot of progress and they're at risk of kind of losing that progress. And so that's what I really like to concentrate on is if you're going to stop the medication, what can you do to keep the progress that the medication gave you in terms of the weight loss?
Mm-hmm. I know you were on the extreme weight loss show, and sounds similar to Biggest Loser, where people lose a ton of weight at once. And I know Biggest Loser study I've heard over the years of people regaining that weight. Have you learned something too from that program you were on and work with people that have extreme weight loss and how to avoid regaining that 100 pounds?
Yeah, I learned a lot from being on the show. It's not The Biggest Loser, so it was not a competition. It was following one person over a whole year to see kind of their weight loss journey. So it was, to me, different, and I really learned a lot from participating, being the medical doctor on that show. But yeah, you've got to have a plan. Some people have been successful. Some people regain the weight. One thing that I learned and I talk about a lot is we need to change what we think success is.
Mm.
We think, oh, you lose the weight, you keep it off, and you never regain it. That's success. Well, that's not necessarily what's going to happen. People lose weight. They may be successful maintaining it for a year, 2 years. They lose their job. They move. They get an injury. Something happens. They regain some of it. That's okay. You go back into weight loss. You lose it, and you maintain again. Success. That's success. So part of it is how people define success. What is their expectation of this? But I do think people can be successful. We have followed people in the National Weight Control Registry who are successful at losing weight and keeping it off. So we do have some data and science behind maintaining and what are the characteristics and behaviors that seem to be associated with that.
Yeah. So with the GLP-1 medication, what's the biggest reason that people regain the weight or risk to regain the weight?
Well, if they stop taking them, they don't have to stop taking the medication. But if they want to stop taking it, or maybe they can't afford it anymore, or maybe they're having some side effects they don't want to continue to have, so that they do stop the medication, their appetite is going to go back up to what it was before they started taking the drug. And so they're going to start eating more. And then when they start eating more, and if they haven't changed anything else, their weight is going to go back up. So it makes sense. It's not that the drug didn't work. It's that the drug is no longer on board. So that's why they regain the weight. It's kind of like a blood pressure pill. Decreases your blood pressure until you no longer take it, and then your blood pressure goes back up.
So it's just a Band-Aid and not really treating why are you not feeling full and satisfied, or why you have those hunger cravings? Not,
I guess you can say it's a Band-Aid, but it's not a band. It's not, I mean, we have lots of drugs that do that, right? So I think the blood pressure pill is a great example. I guess you could say that the blood pressure pill is a Band-Aid, but it's a successful Band-Aid, right? And it changes your physiology so that your blood pressure comes down to a healthy range. The GLP-1s decrease your appetite, maybe more into a healthy range. Yes, they don't deal with the other stuff. So if you stop them, you're gonna need to deal with the other stuff. That's why I always say if you're gonna stop the medications, the GLP-1s, have a plan. Don't just do it and say, let me see what happens. Because I know what's gonna happen if you don't have a plan.
and also I've heard about your metabolism slows down because you are losing muscle is a big thing we'd hear about GLP-1 side effects. Is that
Yeah,
part of
so
it?
we're studying that. We don't know for sure. What we know is when you lose weight, anyway, you lose weight with diet and exercise, when you lose weight with bariatric surgery, losing weight by any method, you lose both fat and lean tissue. And some of that lean tissue is muscle. And there's kind of a percentage that we know is normal. When you gain weight, you gain muscle, you gain fat and muscle. And when you lose fat and muscle. And there's kind of a normal percentage that we've seen, we recognize. What we're not sure of now, and what some of the studies are trying to look at, is did the GLP-1s cause is it the normal percentage, or are we losing more muscle than we would expect? So is it going a little bit more than the typical weight loss? It's normal to lose some muscle, but is it more muscle than is normal? And we don't have great data yet to say that. People are thinking maybe that could be the case, and part of it is they're producing a lot of weight loss. So people are really interested in that, but we don't know yet.
So your new book, Losing the Weight Loss Meds, it's a 10-week playbook for stopping GLP-1 medications without the regaining the weight. What type of order of operations do you find that gives people the most success to avoid that weight regain?
Well, I think you're going to like this because there isn't one way. You've got to kind of profile people. We have 3 profiles in the book, and that can kind of guide you into what area to try first, because you don't want to just try everything. You want to kind of individualize it. So we talk about how you can use food, your nutrition, to replace the weight loss medication. And if you tend to be what I kind of call a food seeker, someone who a nonstop food seeker, we may really focus on how we can use nutrition to replace the medication. We also have people whose activity is really low. Maybe it's from their job. I call these sedentary sitters. That tends to be a big piece. So maybe we're going to focus really on how we're going to have activity come in and replace the GLP-1s. And then we have the, I always call, what do I call them? The kind of recyclers, and it's about emotional things. So they come in and they, setback cyclers. That's what I call them, setback cyclers. So life happens. Curveball comes, and but that throws them completely off, probably for many of the things you've been talking about. They're using food to treat that, or trauma, and they're using food as a way to deal with that. And so really focusing on changing your mind state, emotional resiliency techniques, how you're going to change that pattern or behavior that you've had, that becomes maybe your major focus, so that you can replace that, use that, and replace the GLP-1 meds.
Yes, that sounds that it is how to wean off of them slowly. I'm sure you just don't stop. Is there a way to taper and then kind of swap those habits, or is there just do it?
You are asking all the right questions. I just got back from the Obesity Society meetings in Atlanta, and those were the questions everybody's asking. What is the best way? Do we taper? Now, one thing to remember with the GLP-1s, the injections, is just once a week, so they have a long half-life. So the drug, even if you stop with the injection, it's not going to be out of your system for 5 weeks. So it's naturally 5 half-lives. So it's going to naturally go down even without you doing anything. Now, but maybe you want to have it longer than that. Maybe you should dose every other week. Do you cut the milligrams down? We don't know. People are looking at that. That's still kind of the art. I always say there's a science to it and there's an art to it. And I think we're still discovering that piece.
Because I would think too, thinking of a friend I just saw who really didn't need to lose any weight. Actually, I just saw two people that have been on him. Like, ooh, you kind of look unhealthy. So knowing when to stop too, that, all right, I'm at my goal weight. It's that not to be afraid of getting off of them. I think it is a big fear for people. So your book probably helped guide them how to do it correctly and avoid that weight gain. But I guess the question is knowing when to stop.
Yeah. So if you are on these medications, I say do it with a healthcare provider or somebody who understands the side effects, how to taper, and when perhaps to back off, and someone that can be helping you with this journey. So I think that's all reasons why don't have a plan and do this under it's a health umbrella. Do it under there. Make sure you aren't doing it alone. And then when you're ready, or if you're ready to stop the GLP-1s, make sure you continue to have a plan. You don't just throw up your hands at that point. And my area of expertise has always been weight loss maintenance. And I've always said nobody wanted to talk about it. It was like, I was not the cool kid, because it's like, no, I want to lose more weight. I want to lose more weight. I'll talk about weight loss maintenance later. They do lip service, but nobody really wanted to know what I was learning, all the science. And suddenly now I'm like, okay, I'm a popular kid now. People care about weight loss maintenance because they've lost a lot of weight and they want to know how to maintain it.
So what are some things, lifestyle habits that we can do to help avoid the weight gain?
To help avoid the weight regain after you come off the drug?
Yes.
Yeah. So, focusing, I think one of the big things that we know is going to happen is your appetite's going to go back up. So the key is, let's not have it go all the way back up to what it was. It's going to go up some, and it should. Sometimes it shuts it down so low that people aren't even enjoying any food. They have trouble going out with their families. It's really taken something out of their life that was important to them. So we may not want it to stay as low as it's been, but I don't want it to go back up to what it was. Because if it goes back up to what it was, it's going to be hard. They're going to be fighting it. They're going to regain the weight. So to try to find a middle ground. And so using food, and we talk about something called an appetite reset meal, your first meal of the day. I think of it as, okay, I'm going to purposely kind of combine some foods, eat a meal that's going to help control my appetite for the rest of the day. And I think of it almost like a functional meal. It's serving a purpose. Like you would give yourself a shot, you give yourself this meal that is designed to keep the appetite not as low as it was. I'm not going to oversell this, but not as high as it was before. And so that's an example of one thing that we talked about in the book that really helps with that transition. So I would concentrate on some food things first, because we know that appetite's going to go back up. Then I would look at, okay, where is my activity? Do I need to work on that? Because we want to create what we call metabolic flexibility. That's the really cool stuff. And then I would look and say, do I need to really work on emotional resiliency and how I handle stress, and put some plays in or do some lifestyle changes around those? So you really got to pick and choose and put your own playbook together that fits you.
Yeah. So with metabolic flexibility, I've talked about that for years. It's in my world, it's to burn fat as a main fuel source, switch to carbohydrates when you need it, and then come back to burning fat. How are you doing that in your system?
That is the right definition. And so many people don't know that.
I've done that for 15 years. It's kind of where I got into all this.
Yes. So switching between those fuel sources, and also being able to match intake to expenditure because of those matching carbohydrate and fat. So if you're eating a little bit more carbohydrate, burning that. If you're eating more fat, burning that. Staying in balance, that flexibility. And we do that. We have homeostasis. A lot of people stay within the same 2 or 3 pounds their whole life. Their body weight doesn't change very much. And it's like, how do they do that? Because if you were off even 50 calories a day, which isn't very many, your body weight wouldn't be stable. So there's this adjustment that your body does. We want to make your body able to do that, to create that metabolic flexibility. And physical activity is one of the keys to allow that to occur. Restore your metabolism to how I think it was meant to be. But we've moved into an environment where there's so little movement that's required that our body can't function like it was meant to function.
Yes. No, and that's why I believe metabolism testing that I do should be more popular. That people, same as you say, no one's listening to me. I've been saying this for years, but just a simple resting metabolic test to know, am I eating enough calories? What's my resting rate? And am I burning fat as my main fuel source or more carbohydrates? And we can identify that early on and retest every 2 months and figure out what am I doing to improve that metabolism. If I need to speed it up, it's the strength training. It's the mTOR versus AMPK. How is it best way to activate that fat burning metabolism, but improve metabolism with the mTOR, the strength training? So it's finding that right Goldilocks effect for each unique person to find their blueprint to improve themselves.
I think you're going to like where the GLP-1s are going to take this field because there's now focus on muscle and are you losing muscle? Lots of research now trying to understand, well, with resistance training, what's really going on at the cellular level? How is it impacting? So I think you're going to like the kind of side effect of these GLP-1s in terms of what new research is going to come out and it's going to fit really nicely with what you've been looking at your whole life.
Yeah, it is. It's just, hopefully people start to realize that. The other thing I always think of metabolic flexibility of your metabolism, fat to carbohydrates for your fuel source, similar to what we're talking about resiliency and the nervous system and being out of sympathetic dominance and be able to shift, mostly stay in that parasympathetic thing. It's not like 80-20 for both of them, right? Your fat to carbs and your parasympathetic to your sympathetic fight or flight nervous system that we get so chronically busy, chronic stress in our lives that we're stuck over the sympathetic side and we're not as resilient. So with the GLP-1 and weight loss resistant clients and avoiding the regain, is there anything on building their resiliency, more specifically improving their vagus nerve, the vagal tone?
Yes, so perfect. And I haven't thought of it exactly like that, but I see the parallel there. One of the things we talk about in the book and that I recommend with all my clients and patients is we talk about something about called mind minutes. You know, we talk about how many minutes of physical activity and we have recommendations for that. But what do you do to really use your mind, the mind-body connection, which is some of what you're talking about. So, and spend some minutes doing that. So for some people, especially that have maybe more of that sympathetic, it might be working on breath work. Right, to encourage the vagus nerve. I think people have to kind of fine tune what they need to strengthen their mind, but definitely some people it would be working on trying to restore that balance to be able to get into a more calm, to stimulate the vagus nerve. Lots of new kind of devices coming out that need to be studied more before we go out and recommend them. But I think you're right. That is a direction we're going to.
Well, that's what I dive into a lot of my podcasts is about rewiring our nervous system and looking at the root cause. Why do we have dysbiosis or poor digestion or, SIBO, whatever it might be, and you work upstream and it's mindset. It's that nervous system. And if I try to eat food in a sympathetic nervous system state, nothing's going to happen in the right order of operations. And we create metabolic chaos, and we need to restore metabolic harmony by getting everything working and passing the baton to the next guy to do all the proper digestion. So I think, I would say eating nutrient dense whole foods plan that makes you feel good and energized and balances your blood sugar and all of that. But are we able to break that food down and digest the protein into amino acids and get the essential fatty acids and all that? But I think so much of it comes back to our go, chronic stress, ADD, always online, lifestyle.
It all works together. And
Mm-hmm.
you're making a really good point. We talk about what's the best diet and I always say, well, what's the best diet depends on how much you're moving. And it also depends on this mind-body connection in the mind state, right? So all of it works together and we study it sometimes separately. We really need to think about how it fits because what the recommendations I give for one person on something is going to be dependent on everything that you've just talked about.
Yeah, love that. The other thing I hear a lot about in the GLP-1 medications and how to do it naturally with looking at the microbiome and different food or supplements. There's a lot of different products out there saying we can naturally increase your GLP-1. Can you speak to any of those?
Yeah.
So
this is what people don't realize. So the natural GLP-1, there are foods and ways that you can increase your body secreting GLP-1. But that GLP-1 has a half-life that's really short. It will be degraded very, very, very quickly. What the pharmaceutical companies have done is taken that made a synthetic analog that looks a lot like, very, very close to GLP-1 that's made in your body, but changed a few pieces of it so that it is not degraded, so that it sits on the receptor and it's not broken down. So it's very different. So just increasing GLP-1 through certain foods may be a little bit helpful, but it's not going to have nearly the effect of the new medications, because the medications are an analog. They're not identical. They've been changed enough that they don't get broken down, so that their effect is way larger and lasts longer than just natural GLP-1.
Yes, because you hear about different things as berberine, or different gut bacteria take different probiotics to help the GLP-1 enhance your gut health.
I do think gut health, I do now think the microbiome, I think this is going to be an area that's very hot too, is our second brain. We have our first brain, we have our second brain in our gut, and it is signaling by the food you give it, and it break down in the different fibers and stuff. The bacteria are producing signals that go to the brain and impact appetite. I just don't think it's necessarily the GLP-1 that's doing it. So I'm not going to dismiss the power of the gut and what you eat to impact appetite, because I do think there's signals there. We're trying to understand those more. It's just when people say eat this to increase GLP-1, that doesn't exactly make sense with what we know.
Good to know. Now, with the nutrition part, you're talking about their first meal. What macros do you look at as people are weaning off these medications to avoid the regain?
Yeah, so the first meal, I really try to make sure. So in general, I'm telling people to combine protein and carbohydrate, not to take carbohydrate by itself, because we start that insulin roller coaster that some people are super sensitive to, meaning they'll spike their insulin and then their glucose comes down. And as their glucose is coming down, our blood sugar is coming down. Even before it gets low, just even the rate at which it's falling or the pattern may signal them to go, oh my gosh, I need food. I need food. So I want to stop that. I want to kind of smooth that out. So I talk about always combining a protein, a lean protein, and a carbohydrate. Other reasons to have protein, maybe if they're doing resistance training or wanting to protect their muscle. In the appetite reset meal, it's about protein, some carbohydrate, but also fiber. Hitting that meal, there's a certain amount of fiber I recommend. I think it's 15 grams, which is a nice piece, a nice amount of fiber. And starting the day off with that. So, and I think, people say, well, it's not the best tasting meal I've ever had. I'm like, not every meal has to be a party in your mouth. Some meals can be functional. And then later in the day, you may have some great meals that you really enjoy. But start off the day, with a purpose. I'm trying to replace the shot, get my appetite to a level that is easier for me to be strategic about what I eat and feel satisfied with less food. And to do that in a way by combining certain nutrients, protein, fiber, not making sure I don't have a lot of added sugar in that meal to start off the day. And it can taste good. It may not be the best meal you've ever put in your mouth.
What about fats, essential fats?
Yeah, so I think you can have some essential fats and you can put it in. This is just the first meal of the day. Yeah. Definitely can have fat throughout the day. We're looking at what you're going to do long term. So whatever at this point we're going to do, we need to think about how, does it make sense to be able to do this for a long period of time? So you don't want too many restrictions, because we're not wired to have, to eat in a box, forever. Yeah. We want to have some natural ability to pick foods we want and to eat what we want.
And with fiber, I always find it confusing that, what type of fiber, everyone has different fiber recommendations. Are you saying the purpose is to feel fullness, or why are you wanting fiber in your first meal?
Multiple reasons. So fiber, yes, can add volume. And when we add volume, we know so delayed gastric emptying is another reason the GLP-1s work. The food stays in your stomach longer. And when it stays in your stomach longer, different signals are sent out. So we're trying to kind of mimic that with fiber, keep the food in your stomach longer, make it a larger volume. Some people are very sensitive to volume. I am. I have to have a certain volume in my stomach before I'm satisfied. A little bit of calories in a small, it just doesn't work for me. And so that's one reason. So the fiber helps with that. It's also the microbiome. I think the fiber then is a nutrient for some of the bacteria, the good bacteria. We don't understand exactly which bacteria, and we're learning more and more. But I do think that fiber is going to help with the microbiome. That's then going to send messages to your brain about I've had enough, a healthier kind of appetite, a healthier body weight regulation. Multiple reasons why fiber is, I think, an important part of when you're trying to stop the GLP-1s.
What if they have GI stress, though? If they have diarrhea, IBS issues?
So if they have IBS and they're trying to come off of the medication, that's when you got to talk to your doctor and you've got to really figure out what's going to work for you. And that's when you have to kind of fine tune things. It may not be that you can use 15 grams in that meal. It might be a little bit less. You may find out that I can't do that because I have these issues. Therefore, I'm going to use some different plays. I'm going to do some different things. So that's where having that healthcare provider plugged in is going to be critical. And you always want to listen to them.
Yeah. And I think it's Dr. Ruscio is a naturopathic doctor, and he has a good platform of 3 different gut types, or now I think he added a 4th one, and how to decide, if this is good for me to have these. They're all great foods, but what is best for you is very individual. So working with a practitioner that can help you go, okay, if I'm having IBS or if I'm having Candida or SIBO, I need to figure out a different plan that people don't think, because I think sometimes certain good foods can obviously react differently in everybody's body, and we have to make sure you don't just do it on your own.
Don't do it on your own, and you got to individualize it. People want this is what everybody needs to do. And I'm like, we're never going to be there, guys. It's never going to be, this is the way to do it. And when you hear that out there, that's a red flag for me from someone saying this is the way, the secret way, the one way, the only way. I'm like, I've done this long enough to say, no, wait, I know that's not probably going to be correct.
Well, I'm asking that because I was just seeing I had someone that had their trainer that they work with online is giving them this weight loss plan. And it really upset me because it might be working for them right now, but it was only 1,200 calories a day. It wasn't it was just a set regimen diet, and it was missing some nutrients, and it was kind of low fat, and it wasn't enough protein, and it's just weird. I was just thinking, okay, how did they ever come up with this? It's like 1 ounce of cheddar cheese and then a rice cake and this and that. I thought, okay, we need to remember each person's unique and work with them individually, and not just give them this template diet that people are selling on their website programs with your personal trainer. I get these ads all the time for trainers doing this weight loss program, and it's not one size fits all the time.
No, and we know that. We know now we need to be more precise. We used to study what is the best diet for weight loss or the best diet for this. Now we know there isn't such a thing as the best diet. It is about individualizing. There's certain things we know in general are healthy.
Yes.
We can do some general things, but we know and there's a big NIH study looking at trying to figure out how do we start to match that better to individualize nutrition better.
Yeah. I think there's a template, and then we need to take that and then work from there, and then kind of reorganize it for that person is helpful. So going back to the book and new things that people haven't talked about when people are weaning off the medications, they get off of them, they're trying to not regain it. What are some main success pointers to give people the most success in their progress?
I think the biggest success is probably not what they want to hear, but is to have a plan to go out there and try some of these things to see which of these playbook changes you can put in place to replace the medicine will work for you. I think the thing that people don't usually spend time on that I think is equally important to nutrition and physical activity is your mind state. So if I had to say there's one that people overlook, I would say, well, people need more work with their mind state than they recognize. They always say, okay, help me with what to eat. Dr. Holly, help me with my physical activity. Okay. But they usually don't come to me and say, help me with my mind state. And that's usually where I actually want to start because it's going to help me with the other things if we're going to make some changes to what they're eating and how much they're moving. So I wish I had a silver bullet to say, this is the thing. But then I would that wouldn't be true. I think it's
Yeah.
figuring out of this whole list of possibilities, which one fits you best because of where you struggle and where you currently can make the biggest changes that are going to help you.
So the book is a guidebook, a playbook, and you're getting those tools for your toolbox. But then ideally, you should be working with a practitioner to help guide you to figure out what is best for you and coach you up and help implement these new strategies into your unique life so you will be successful in getting off the medication and having a healthy weight that you can maintain for the rest of your life.
Yeah, we wrote the book. I would love for all kinds of healthcare providers to hook with it, right? To use it and use it as a starting place to go and talk about these things and have ideas and it's written that way. So we would love for registered dietitians and personal trainers and psychologists to look at this book and use it to help people because I think you can do it alone, but no, it's better if you have help.
Visualize yourself having that on a website and having a program.
Having a program? Well,
Yeah,
I
this
have
program.
programs. Well, I've have a State of Slim program. This is my second book. We just launched a website. It's called weightwisdom.com, where we're going to put kind of all of the different tools and strategies and programs and things people can use. So weightwisdom.com is kind of where we're going. And yeah, I do think we will have other programs and things to support people in their journey that help them with the book. So support them with the book.
Because that's what I think it's most successful for people is have a program as you're having in your book and what you're speaking about that you have already, but just having individual sessions, but in a group. And I find that more effective that you have weekly group calls, but then you still have the one-on-ones. And that to me is when you can help guide people and help them be their best self, working and listening to them and helping them figure out, okay, what should I be doing and how to get there?
Yeah.
Rather than just doing their own reading a book is a good start. But then I want to be immersed in that group and have other people that are going through it too, so you can relate to those people and they understand where you might be struggling because they might be going through something similar.
We are on the same page. I don't know. It sounds like we've met each other before, but I do have a group. It's called Energized. And it's where you plug in once a week to be energized and to connect with others that are on similar journeys. My newest stuff comes out in that, whether you're losing weight, whether you're maintaining weight, wherever you are in your journey, you can plug into that once a week. Right now, we meet on Saturday mornings, but you're right. To have some additional coaching and to have some additional new stuff and to stay motivated and to connect to others so you're not alone. Very important for a lot of people going through this.
Yeah. And I think it's the lifestyle habits that are the hardest for people. I just gave a talk last weekend to 40 women that are lawyers and their parents, moms, and they're doing it all. And they're struggling with weight loss. And we're like, okay, what do you think is most important? And we got down to sleep and how to sleep when your kids are playing sports at 8 o'clock at night and how to stop eating 3 hours before bed and all this. Wow, we just need a working full-time moms group that you have support because it's so challenging. I don't have kids, so I'm like, I don't know. That's really complicated to figure out how to get your sleep, how to prioritize your self-care routine, and be putting your kids to bed on time yourself. I mean, it just gets complicated. So that's why I think, all these different groups and help guide people together and individually help figure out what is your ideal day? What's your ideal week look like? How are we going to fit in the minimal effective dose of a strength training or taking movement snack breaks throughout the day, whatever you can get, 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there. It just all accumulates to benefit you. But I think middle-aged women and men struggle trying to do it all. And they hear all this stuff on podcasts, on longevity talks. And, I used to work for Ben Greenfield and he'd be, have all this stuff to do. That's amazing, but not everyone has that time or that much money to buy all these devices. So looking at natural ways is getting outside, grounding, morning sunshine, breath work, moving, that doesn't require anything but yourself and the outdoors.
Yeah. I think prioritizing and realizing that you don't have to do it all, but once again, picking the things that are going to make the biggest bang for you is critical. And The other thing is make it easier. I'm like, it can't be hard. You won't continue to do it if it's hard. People are like, I can handle it. I'm like, no, I don't want you to handle it, right? I mean, I want you, this is your life we're talking about. Weight loss maintenance is forever. This is the behaviors you're going to be doing for your whole life. It needs to be fun. It needs to be easy. I say, if you need a vacation from your lifestyle, we got to work on your lifestyle because your lifestyle is your life.
Yeah.
Your vacation is short. I'm not saying you can't go on vacations for fun, but if your lifestyle's like, because I have this other, I got to go on vacation. I need a vacation from my lifestyle. I'm like, we got to work on your lifestyle.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, that, you shouldn't have to go on vacation to reset or escape everything. It's just, that's life. It's not going anywhere. You're in it. Let's make the best of it and figure out what to do with what we have.
Right, because that's it. That's what you got.
I know. That's funny. So one other question, then we can wrap up. Would you suggest any lab testing, fasting insulin, A1C, thyroid panel, gut health? Do you do any of that with people to help them?
Not generally. If there's specific symptoms or signs or they have past history, then there may be some testing that need to be done. But in general, I don't do that unless so it's very much an individual approach. I don't cast a net and say everybody needs an insulin level or everybody needs this testing. So that's where I think plugging in and having someone who knows you and can work with you really, really is critical.
What about fasting?
Yeah. So timed eating, intermittent fasting. I think the data is looking pretty good. I think I do talk about that in the book. I do use that as a play. I think we're still learning why it works and what's the very best way to do it. How long to fast or how long to do the timed eating. Recent study came out talking about, I think it was 4-3 fasting or 4 days. I think it was 4 days eating, 3 days fasting, showing. So we're getting more data, I guess, is what I'm trying to show. And I do think maybe our bodies were wired to have periods where we don't have food.
Yeah.
And we've moved into this environment where we eat all the time. It's so easy to grab food, and we never go through a period where the body can kind of reset and say, okay, there's no nutrients coming in. Let's do some things differently. And because when nutrients are coming in, we go through different pathways. And when they're not coming in, certain pathways in the body turn on. And so I think we're getting more and more data. So I'm watching that, and I do think that can be helpful for some individuals.
Yeah. I know what year is it? 25. So when did intermittent fasting, maybe 2015 maybe got popular, and everyone started the 16/8 and the OMAD but that, I think what happened to the fit and healthy people that shouldn't have been doing so much fasting, that are working out a lot and eating healthy already, but then they started doing fasting too much and caused people were saying, low thyroid and issues because they're fasting too much. But I think we end up not eating enough. And I know I was training 20 hours a week, exercising and fasting and ending one meal a day and having bulletproof coffee back in the day for 5 hours and not eating. So I think, when people are metabolically unhealthy and struggling with the weight, fasting is a great tool for those people to help teach them when to eat and when to give your body digest, rest, and learn those signals naturally. And that's probably good, I would think, post GLP-1s. Now you relearn the hunger, fullness signals yourself.
Yeah, to feel what it feels like to be hungry. Yeah, I agree with that. And once again, it just shows anything can be too much. It's always kind of finding
the Goldilocks effect is safe for everything.
Yeah.
I know my friend Dr. Boz, she does this 3-day sardine challenge with people. I'm like, if you really want to figure out how to feel full and actually eat when you're hungry, do a sardine challenge. I've not done it, but I hate sardines, but
I have never heard of that. So can't comment.
Yeah. So anyways, let's see where to place or send everyone's. There's Facebook. I see State of Slim. weightwisdom.com is coming soon. Tell us where to connect with you.
Yeah. So we're doing pre-orders for the book. So if you are thinking about coming off the GLP-1s, or maybe you're going to go on them, but you want to be prepared to be able to stop them at some point, the book is available. It comes out on December 16th, but you can pre-order it, and it's just Losing the Weight Loss Meds. It's at Amazon. And then our website is weightwisdom.com. So that would be another place to connect with us.
Amazing. Well, I look forward to reading the book when it comes out. And I just think this is an area, as I said, for 3 years, I've been looking into it, how to help people succeed, taking them and then getting off. So I'm glad you guys wrote the books. I've been following different groups on LinkedIn and people researching this science of how to make this effective on what individuals should be taking this drug and help them when they get off of it. And this is a great time, probably get this book out because a lot of people are been on it. Now they don't know what to do next. So I love it.
We want to protect the progress that they made, but I would love to get your insights. When you read the book, let me know what you think. I really tried to put everything that could be helpful in one place. And so would love to have your thoughts when you read it.
We'll have to do another podcast follow-up post-book launch.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks so much. That was great.
All right. Thank you. Thanks
for listening to the Fit and Healthy Athlete Podcast. Coach Debbie Potts draws from decades of experience. Ready to optimize your health? Visit www.debbiepotts.net for a discovery call. Find her on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Coach Debbie Potts. To support the show, like, rate, and review. See you next time.